Okay, is everyone ready?
Yeah, I started recording.
Okay. School, work, financial struggles, family and relationships, taking care of yourself and your loved ones, keeping your life generally organized. Those are some of the everyday stressors that are placed on us by society, placed on us by others, placed on us by ourselves even. And if we don't take a step back, we tend to overlook the weight of all of that pressure. So I want you to imagine all of those struggles, now add poor emotional and mental health on top of that. And that sounds like a lot for one person to deal with, right? That's because it is. Therapists are there to lighten that load, to improve our emotional resilience, to listen to our struggles in a safe, confidential environment, licensed to help. Yet, according to the CDC, only 19.2% of adults received mental health treatment in 2019. Of that percentage, only 9.5 attended counseling. More people need to take advantage of having access to mental health services because it's a privilege being able to get help. As someone who attends therapy regularly, I'll express the need for more people to receive mental health treatment and how we as a society can save the lives of many. 47,511 lives to be exact. That's how many Americans lost their life to suicide in 2019. That's roughly 130 suicides per day, and that doesn't even account for the 1.38 million attempts. According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the US. Of those 47,511 people, I knew 2 of them, so I can tell you that suicide doesn't only affect its victims. When someone you know dies by suicide, you may feel like guilty afterwards. You say stuff like, "How did I not notice the signs?" or "I wish there was more I could have done to help." And that is the problem. Too many people fail to recognize the signs before it's too late. Lack of proper education leads to a lack of educated people. Inadequate mental health education in schools and misinformation from society will be detrimental to us. If I hadn't taken AP psychology in high school, I would know little to nothing about mental health or how our own brain works with our emotions. And schools should be prioritizing the mental health of their students since, according to mentalhealthliteracy.org, 1 in 5 young people suffer from a mental illness. And the consequences of overlooking adolescent mental health don't just end once the child moves into adulthood. Oftentimes, these children experience a harder time managing their emotions in healthy ways, and that can limit their ability to lead gratifying lives. And I think the most challenging part for sure about getting people to go to therapy is combating the stigma around it. It's considered perfectly normal to go to a doctor when you're in physical pain, but when your emotional or mental health suffers, it's seen as weakness. And that definitely deters people from reaching out for help. Men are drastically affected by this stigma. Men in general are taught to act a certain way when it comes to vulnerability, and that stems from toxic masculinity within our own society. It teaches boys to not openly express their emotions. And according to the CDC, in 2019, 24.7% of women received mental health treatment, while only 13.4% of men received treatment. And that's no doubt a reflection of society's flawed beliefs. The most effective way to begin correcting these beliefs is to break down the walls and misconceptions that have been built before us. When people hear the word help, they associate it with incapable. That's a naive way of thinking. As Emily Anhalt said in her TED Talk, no world-class athlete has ever achieved their full potential without the support of a coach. Why do we expect to reach our emotional potential by ourselves? Exactly. There's no shame in asking for help, and those who receive it aren't any less capable. Another common misconception is that only mentally ill people go to therapy. You don't have to have a mental disorder to benefit from therapy. Having a trained, objective person listen and reflect back to you can change your life for the better. You begin to learn your own thought processes, your tendencies, your emotional triggers. Therapy shouldn't be used as an offensive tactic where you only go when something's wrong. It's a preventative measure. The key is to already have that emotional intelligence that's needed before something bad happens. That way, you're better suited to deal with it. The stigma. The best way to combat the stigma around mental health is with knowledge. Having the proper information not only benefits you, but it helps you watch out for signs of emotional distress in others, which can potentially save a life. Information on mental health can be accessed in various different places, online, libraries, even the people in your own life. The American Psychiatric Association claims that simply knowing or having contact with someone with mental illness is one of the best ways to reduce stigma. When someone we know shares their experiences, it makes mental illness sound scary and unknown, but it changes it to real and relatable. And the only way to stop the rise of mental health issues is to become educated. If people know their options and their facts, they'll be more encouraged to take the first step and be better equipped to help others. And with what we know about the current conditions of mental health in the US, imagine if nothing changes. COVID running rampant, people in isolation for prolonged periods of time, teenagers silently suffering with mental illness, men maintaining the highest rates of suicide. These things are likely to continue, if not worsen, if we as a society do nothing. But now that we know the importance of a healthy mind, we can begin to work towards a brighter future. And if you want to help as soon as possible, check up on a friend today. Looking out for the people close to you may help them more than you know. And it doesn't stop there. There's lots of good resources out there that can teach you how mental health affects our well-being. One of the best sources is the CDC website, they have a whole array of articles on things you should know about mental health. And it's imperative that we educate ourselves on the topic because it's something any of us could deal with at any point in our life. It's challenging, unpredictable. We're burdened by numerous responsibilities and worries. Those worries can potentially become something bigger. And that's why it's important to take care of your mental health. Talking to someone, taking preventative action to keep your mind healthy and happy, becoming educated. These small changes can make an everlasting impact on your life and the people around you. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank
That was
you.
really good.
That was good.
Thanks, guys. My voice is shaking and my legs are shaking. Okay.
Now you're done.
Whew. Okay, who's
Who wants
next?
to go next? Anyone? All right, I'll go. All right. Here on Earth, we are running on borrowed time. Our planet only has so much space and resources, and while we are ways away from running bone dry, it is a possibility. Because of this, we must look for other forms of sustenance, and colonizing Mars is our first step in securing our future. We all share the same planet, and for the most part, the same issues. We all rely on the natural resources, such as precious metals in our phones and cars. These resources are limited, and we must be cautious in our use and look for them elsewhere. The use of limited resources and their eventual disappearance is one reason we should colonize Mars. Also, we as a species dominate one planet, Earth. If something catastrophic were to happen, such as an asteroid impact, we could be facing some sort of global extinction event. First for the animals, some of which we rely on for food, and then possibly for us. The most prominent limited resources we use on Earth is oil, and there's really not a lot left. According to USA Today, there's roughly 53.3 years of oil left on Earth. As college students, this is in our lifetime. Just think that 50 years from now, you could be facing some sort of trouble when you try to fill your car up with gas. Other companies are focusing on electric vehicles, and while these are promising, they take the same, if not more, limited resources to create. They use resources such as rare earth minerals, like lanthanum and cerium, and others that are used in nearly all electronics, like phones and computers. These minerals, like oil, take millions of years to generate, which is obviously out of our lifetimes. The use of minerals is increasing. In 1998, cell phones were only owned by roughly 5.3% of the population, according to communications of the ACM. In 2017, that number was up to 103.4%. The land that we live on itself is also limited. The loss of arable land comes from human overpopulation, which has been an issue for many years. According to Everything Connects, the loss of habitable land places competitive stress on the basic life-sustaining resources and leads to a diminished quality of life. Losing this natural resource is perhaps the most dangerous thing that we are facing. Without land, we simply cannot live. While we have not purposely consolidated ourselves to one planet, it just happened. We are well aware of our future possibilities in other world colonization. Living entirely on one planet generates the risk that if something catastrophic were to happen, like I mentioned earlier, such as an asteroid impact that was at least 16 kilometers in diameter, there could be a huge danger to us. According to Clayton Knappenberger in his essay, An Economic Analysis of Mars Exploration and Colonization, an asteroid typically collides with Earth anywhere from 1 to 100 million years. Considering this, the combined annual probability is approximately 1.1 times 10 to the negative 71%. This number is incredibly low, but it only takes one to really put us in danger. In a way, we're back into a corner here on Earth. It's almost unavoidable if an asteroid at least 16 kilometers in diameter is on its way to Earth for us to move out of its way. This size asteroid could easily wipe out a continent and change the planet's climate, which could make things even more dangerous for us. We as a species are facing many issues here on Earth. From limited resources to planetary extinction, it's undeniable that we must look for other solutions off of our planet. Earth has been our home for thousands of years, but like other life forms, we must leave our birthplace and look for other homes. That home is Mars, with a remarkably similar composition to Earth, as well as great opportunities for economic and technological advancement. Colonizing Mars holds a bright future. You may be asking, why Mars? What's so special? Well, Mars is our closest habitable neighbor outside of the Moon. However, unlike the Moon, Mars is rich in carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, all in biologically readily accessible forms. All of these gases are present here on Earth, and they support our lives. There's also a plethora of minerals on Mars, such as copper, but I'll touch on that later. Mars does not have a thick atmosphere, but it's enough to protect us against the damaging solar rays emitted from the sun. According to SpaceX, the atmosphere is primarily CO2 with some nitrogen and argon, which means that we can grow crops on Mars just by compressing the atmosphere. Even with this thin atmosphere, growing crops on Mars is possible. There is water in the ice caps near the poles, and while melting the ice caps is a little far-fetched idea, it's still possible to get the water from those ice caps if colonists were to be on Mars. Mars' overall similarity to Earth makes it a great candidate for habitation. Its atmosphere, while thin, exists, and it's enough to protect us. According to Aaron Ridley, a professor of space sciences and engineering at the University of Michigan, Mars has a day that is just over 24 hours long, which means a day on Mars is roughly equivalent to a day here on Earth. That similar day-night cycle means that humans wouldn't have to adjust to a completely different timescale if we were to colonize Mars. It also means that we could create living systems based on a small temperature change, since the day is about the same as it is here on Earth. While there's no liquid water on Mars, that means there's more land for us to settle on. This, in theory, solves our overpopulation issue. As well, there's tunnels underground on Mars. The humans could live in these tunnels, and it actually protects them more than if they were to live on the surface. If we use these tunnels, we could theoretically double the amount of livable space on Mars. There's not many areas left for a huge economic or technological advancement here on Earth. While it's great that we have a strong economy and very advanced technology, Mars could allow for an unprecedented growth in both of those fields. Humans on Mars would not be self-sufficient for a while if we were to settle there. This means that it will be necessary and forever desirable for Mars to be able to import specialized manufactured goods from Earth, according to the National Space Society. These imported goods will allow for economic growth from whoever sent them, and as colonizing Mars would most likely be a global event, this wealth would probably be spread mostly around the globe. Mars, in return, would send back highly refined materials, since they haven't been touched for millions of years. These fresh minerals would generate a huge profit here back on Earth. Also, there's opportunities for technological advancement, as new technology is needed for humans to get to Mars safely and survive. Our problems will eventually disappear if we colonize Mars. It has everything we need. Like a second Earth, it would give us land, minerals, and economic and technological growth. However, if we wait or disregard our abilities to go there, our lack of space here on Earth, our lack of resources, and our stagnating economy and technology will only hurt us. We could run out of food, resources, and many countries could suffer from the bad economy and outdated technology that they have. So to avoid these, we should colonize Mars. We share the planet as a species, and we all rely on the same things for life. Food from the land, minerals from the Earth, and what we make of these things aid us in our efforts to live. We aren't all rocket scientists, so I'm not going to suggest to you that you go out and create a rocket that will allow us to get to Mars safely and back. However, I can suggest that you support those willing to take the risks to venture off the planet to a new planet that we've never been before. Or you could try to fix issues here. That would buy us a little bit more time to think of what we can do next. Supporting the companies is most likely the easiest thing that you can do. Companies like SpaceX, which is probably the biggest and most recognizable of these, are very vocal about their efforts in getting to Mars. Visit their website and read about the many different programs they have going on that should allow us to get there. But if you want to stay earthbound, just try to leave a greener footprint. Ride a bike to where you need to go if it's feasible, as saving our limited supply of oil will only help us in the future. Overall, leave a greener footprint, like I said before. If you need any more ideas, visit downtoearth.gov. Earth has lasted us thousands of years, but as we grow, we need more to sustain our way of life. Mars is one of our closest neighbors that can be inhabited, and while we can send probes there now, within the next 10 to 20 years, there could very well be a group of settlers on Mars. Until then, we must conserve and progress as much as possible to make sure we never have to face the future of living on a husk of a planet. Thank you.
Good job. That was really
Yeah.
interesting.
Thanks.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I have to share my screen though, so I have to figure out how to do that real quick.
Okay.
Or get it set up. Okay. Share screen.
I have a question. Do you guys trim your videos so you just send your part?
I just upload the whole thing.
Put the whole thing.
I think that's what we're supposed to do.
Oh, that's what I've been doing. I was just wondering if I could.
Okay. Can you guys see that?
Mhm.
Okay. 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 I think that's good. Okay. So today my speech is about getting involved in college and why you should do it. So I'll start with our generation and technology. In our lifetime, a lot of things have quickly developed, and because of these things, our generation has been affected. Two of the largest and most impactful things that have increased over the years are technology and mental health awareness. Our generation has grown up with technology from YouTube launching in 2005 to what a large platform it is today. While this technology is super cool and helps with so much in our lives, it has a lot of underlying problems that people have pointed out to us for years, such as the effects of it socially. Luckily, something that has also grown at the same time is the acceptance and awareness of mental health problems, and that you should get help when you need help. I don't quite know if this awareness rose because of technology and social media, but either way, I think it's a good thing that people are recognizing mental health as a big problem that it is. So that'll lead me into my first problem, mental health and social anxiety. So the effects of technology on the 21st century. As I'm sure, as we all grew up with technology from the BlackBerry when we were younger to now the iPhone XR or whatever the recent iPhone is, we've all grown up with the technology and our older peers telling us to get off our phone, to stop doing that, it's ruining your brain and stuff like that. Well, I don't think that is true. Some parts of it is. In an article published by the Gateway to Mental Health Services, they said social media is widely associated with cyberbullying, leads to feelings out of loneliness and being left out, and causes us to make unfavorable and unrealistic comparisons, each of which negatively impacts our sense of happiness and well-being. So what this is saying is that with all of us most likely having social media, or at least a form of social media from Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, or even Discord, just places to talk to people, share pictures, share what you're doing, we often make comparisons from ourselves to what they're doing. And we often put ourselves down because we aren't doing what they're doing. We don't look like what they look. We don't own what they own. And this hurts our mental health a lot and hurts our image of ourselves. And we often put ourselves down and we don't like ourselves. And this is a problem with the technology in the 21st century and how we've grown up with the cyberbullying and all of that. So my second point about mental health and social anxiety is more recent, and it's the effects of COVID. So as you can see from this image and chart, this is from the UK and US, and it's about before the pandemic and mental stress and during the pandemic. So as you can see, if you look at the US reports, they report symptoms and anxiety or feelings of depression from January to June of 2019. Only 11% of adults said that they had some form of anxiety or depression. And then if you jump up to December of 2020, at the end of last year, when we all went through COVID and isolation from people, it jumped up to, I can't see the number. It jumped up to 42%. So as you can see from this, COVID has had a very hard effect on the people of the US, given that the US was in COVID longer and is still in the effects of COVID. Hopefully it won't last too much longer, but you never know. I think the things can still linger. I think we'll still be online for a long time and we'll still have to wear masks for a much longer period. So I think that this can keep going on, and I think it's good to show the problem now so that we can help solve the problem. So, okay, sorry. My last point of mental health and social anxiety is video games. So, as we're all college students and all teenagers or young adults, I'm sure we all have played some form of video games, and especially over COVID time, I know that I have played more video games than I used to, with Among Us being such a big video game, and then all the other past video games coming back and people playing them. So while I want to point out that when I'm talking about video games being a problem for social anxiety, I don't mean like playing video games every now and then, playing with some friends, or just playing as like a hobby. I mean more of the addiction to video games, and that being the only thing you do. You get backaches from sitting in a chair, you get eye strain from staring at a screen for so long, and you're used to only talking to people through a mic. I think that can lead to social anxiety and not knowing how to socially communicate with others in person. So in an article from a game addiction treatment center, they said the lack of social interaction that results from obsessive gaming can have long-term social consequences. An addicted teenager won't develop effective social skills, which will hinder their ability to develop and maintain healthy relationships in college and beyond. So this points more to my social anxiety part of my problem, in that if someone is stuck playing video games all the time, which I know that now video games can be more of a job, like people who stream on Twitch and people who play video games like professionally, like professional Rocket League players, they make money off of this. And while I think that is a good thing, sometimes I think they also need to have a social aspect of life. And in some points they do, like with Twitch, you have an audience. If you're a well-known Twitch streamer, you have an audience that you talk to, you have friends that you talk to, but you're still not in person with people. And I think that can hinder our social anxiety a lot. Okay, so my next problem is on a smaller scale. It's just, in general, everyone has this problem sometimes, and it's just trouble making friends. With moving to a new college, some people are out of state, some people are out of the city, and some people are very nearby. Luckily, I live about 30 minutes from UCF, so with the COVID, I still had my group of friends, I still had my family around me, and I still had my job and my church, and I still had my community. But for college students who move from out of state or from further away, they don't have all this stability, or at least not as much. So I think with trouble making friends, that can be a problem, especially in this time. And I think we need to try and fix that problem. So in an article published by Tori Sheffield, she describes this concept perfectly by saying, friendship is really an important part of life. And it's why having trouble making friends can seriously affect our happiness and quality of life, especially if we move to a new city or job where we can't necessarily rely on our old friendships and dynamics to get us through the day. So I think this is a really important point for college students. If you move to a new college, a new city, you won't have the stability of friends around you, and you need to make new friends. And given that if you grew up your whole life in a different city, you always had those same friends. So it's really tough to move to a new place and not really know how to make friends. So that moves me into my solutions. My solutions are join a club or sport at your school. So, I'm not good at this PowerPoint stuff. So what will this solution help? So my first point that it will help is your stress. So when we have a hard week at school, we have a lot of work to do, we have papers to write, we have quizzes to take, we have exams to take, we get built up stress, and built up stress can hurt our mental health. It can keep us in a room only doing work, and we don't have anything to look forward to besides doing work. So in an article published from college data taken around the world, it said getting involved on campus, although time consuming, provides a break from schoolwork, may help alleviate stress and make college more enjoyable and balanced. College students who are involved in activities are more likely to feel a sense of belonging and adjust more easily to college life. Getting involved can also expand your circle of friends, another enjoyable part of life, college life, that can help you reduce stress. So this hits a lot of points where you have less stress, your mental health is getting better, and you get introduced to new people around campus and that share the same interests as you. Now, my next point, or next thing that this will help, is it will boost your confidence. So I know that as a result of our technology and growing up in technologies, sometimes our confidence can be not very high, and we have social anxiety in certain situations, or we compare ourselves to others, as I said earlier. So when you join a club or sport, even if you don't really know what you're doing, there will be people around you that have the same thoughts as you. They're all college students, they all suffer from these social anxiety things, and some people don't. And those people who don't, and those people who are outgoing, can help show you how to boost your confidence and how to be proud in certain situations. So in an article published by Operation Shower of Appreciation, they stated, the primary benefit of becoming a school club member is that it increases your self-esteem. According to Barbara Markway, a PhD, self-confidence is linked to almost every element involved in a happy and fulfilling life. So basically, when you join a club, you meet new people, you have new connections, and you can have more confidence in your interests, in your friends, and you just learn how to socially be more confident. And my last one, as I've already stated, is that you find new friends and new interests. When joining a club, sometimes it's something that you aren't really interested in, but you're sort of kind of interested in, and you just kind of want to see if you're interested in it. That can help make you learn new things about the club, and will help you figure out if that's what you want to do. So my solution number 2, which is similar to the club, is more tied towards the future, which is to volunteer to work for your school, like in SARC. Just SARC is like a peer tutoring, if you didn't know. It's where they make videos and tutor in certain classes that you might know a lot in. And then there's also the RWC, where you can manage the IM League sports. You can learn how to organize all of those type things. And then there's also SGA, which is the Student Government Association, which you just join a certain type of government where you can be able to organize events for the students, or you can try and hold learn the rights of the students and protect the students' rights in the school. So what do these help and fix? So the first one is networking opportunities. So if you join these type of things, you get the same things as joining a club, except that you're getting more networking, you're getting more connections with people. And if you're going to go into anything similar to having to organize events or political science, stuff like that, you have something on your resume and you've learned something throughout clubs in your school that you can take to a job after school. So in an article published by Newsroom, they said participating in a club or an organization based around your particular area of study will give you practical experience within that field. So basically, if you're working with people in your school, you're creating connections, you have something on your resume to show people that you have sort of been in a job like this before. And then to tie into that work skills, this one is less specifically based to your major. Like if you're majoring in something completely different than SGA, but you just wanted to join leadership and you wanted to organize things, you still find work skills through working with students, working on a team, and just having responsibility on your back and people watching over you, and that you learn how to deal with those stress. So yeah, And then this is more the visualization, the pros and the cons. So the pros are you get to meet new people. You build a good resume for after school. If you do not have a hobby or purpose, you can find one. And 4, you'll learn how to be responsible and useful and have purpose. And the cons, you might not have enough time to do all your schoolwork. And while this is an obvious con, you'll have more stuff on your plate along with school. If you're just in like an IM leagues or just like a normal club or just a normal sport, the good thing is that the rest of the people on there are students as well. They understand that we're all working, we're all having a bunch of exams to study for. And if you need to take a break, they always understand, as I've had to take breaks before with studying for exams and I have to take a practice off. They're like, that's fine, we understand. So that's a con that can be worked around, but with the more volunteering to work for your school, that's where the future of holding responsibilities on your back, that's just something you learn along the way. And then how you should get started. So first, when I first came to UCF, I had a few interests already, but for people who might not know what they want to join, UCF has over 650 clubs. So they do have a club for almost anything you can think of. And if they don't, you can always start one. I know that's scarier than just joining one, but if you're really passionate about something, you could start it yourself. So what I first want you guys to do is just to think about what area of the school you want to pursue, whether it be the IM League sports, the SGA, or more like working for SARC and tutoring kids, or just joining a club like cybersecurity or Hacks UCF. And then once you have any sort of idea in your head, you can go to one of the websites that has a list of all the UCF clubs, and you can start talking to people and emailing people and maybe figuring out where you belong in one of the clubs. So right here I have some useful links. I know you can't like copy them down, but you can always just search these up, and if you search up UCF clubs, there's always a link for the UCF clubs or UCF SGA. It's like the first thing that comes up. So yeah. And there you go.
Good job, Jenna.
Yeah.
Now I kind of actually want to join a club.
Actually, I don't know that seeing the cybersecurity thing kind of actually made me interested. I like just
Yeah.
I just
UCF
looked
has
at
a really good hacking club. It's called Hack UCF. Wait, I'm still sharing my screen.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
I do not know how to use this stuff, if you guys can't tell. Wait.
Me neither.
I probably should have practiced before.
Okay. Didn't cause too many problems.
Right. Well, I think is that it for right now?
Garrett, are you
Yeah,
going?
I was just waiting for like the screen to stop sharing.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I found it. Sorry.
Okay. You guys can hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're fine.
So my speech is going to be on why we should raise the speed limits in the U.S., specifically talking about like highway speed limits. So since most of us likely drive, I'm sure that we can relate to the frustration of modern speed limits. We probably think, a lot of us probably think that we could drive faster than what the speed limit is without really creating more danger for ourselves or others. And if you do this, you probably have the same instinct that I do. It's just like whenever you see a cop just like driving, you just automatically slam on the brakes just by instinct now. Like you don't even have to think about it. So I think that we should raise the speed limits from what they currently are. So slower speed limits actually create more car crashes and are associated with a higher fatality rate among drivers. In 1995, when the national speed limit was still 55 miles per hour, the national fatality rate was 1.7 per 100 million miles traveled. And then in 2 years later, when the national speed limit was raised up to 60. The fatality rate was 1.6 per 100 million miles driven. So we can see that dropping by 0.1, which like isn't much, but out of only 1.7, that's a pretty decent change. And the rate of injury also dropped from 143 per 100 million miles traveled in 1995 to 133 in 1997. This is because slower speed limits create inconsistent speeds in drivers. So if the speed limit on a given highway is about 60 miles per hour, there's going to be a lot of drivers who want to travel faster than that just because they feel like they can and that's too slow. And then there's going to be a lot of drivers who will listen to that 60 mile per hour speed limit just out of like obligation to the law. So we see some people going like 70, maybe 80, and others going like 60 or a little bit under that. And like this inconsistency in speed limits actually creates like a lot more risk for accidents and more deadly accidents when they do happen. And my second point is that the speed limit should be created around what is reasonable for everyone to drive at, and it should conform to drivers, not drivers conforming to the speed limit. So research from the Federal Highway Administration and the Institute of Transportation Engineers show that the speed limit should be set at the 85th percentile of traffic speed. This means that only 15% of drivers should be driving faster than the speed limit. And if we look at today, around 45% of drivers report going over 10 miles per hour over the speed limit in the past 30 days. And that doesn't account for the people that didn't want to admit that they were speeding. Speed limits shouldn't be set so that most drivers are breaking the law just by going a good speed at which they think the speed they're going is safe and optimal. A good speed limit would allow drivers to just drive normally without really having to worry about the speed limit as long as they're driving safely. Also, drivers should really have to be pulled over for just driving in a safe and reasonable way. Raising the speed limit will help to lower the fatality rate and injury rate among drivers. If we raise the speed limit, it would decrease the variation in speed on the road because people are less likely to drive at a higher, much faster speed than the speed limit if it's already higher. And then the people who just want to go the speed limit out of respect for the law are going to be going faster anyway. So there's going to be a smaller variation in that speed, which will make the road safer in general. And raising the speed limits will also help to improve relations with law enforcement and help make the roads safer, according to the research from the Federal Highway Administration and Institute of Transportation Engineers. If the speed limits were raised in any meaningful way, then we would come closer to the speed limit being set at the 85th percentile of traffic speed that's recommended by research. And this will lower accident rates and just overall make the road safer. And if we do raise the speed limits, then most people wouldn't really have to worry about getting pulled over for driving in a safe and reasonable manner. So that would just create a better relationship with law enforcement in general and kind of stop that knee-jerk reaction, just be scared of a cop when we see him on the road immediately and hit our brakes. So if we implement these higher speed limits, then all the problems that I've talked about in this speech so far will either go away or become much better than they are right now. People will crash less, which will result in less fatalities and less injuries, as well as the general relationship with law enforcement just becoming better. So the best thing to do right now is to just inform others of the information that I provided throughout this speech and try to take the stigma away that driving faster, like if everyone drove faster, there'd be more crashes, because that's not necessarily true. Like the main killers is the variation in speed. So I think the main problem that's stopping us from having higher speed limits right now is the stigma that most people have that just like driving slower is safer and driving faster is worse. So just let people know that that stigma isn't necessarily true and what I've done through this speech. So although many people think that driving slower is safer, it's generally untrue. Raising the speed limits will help to accommodate for the variation in speed of drivers and make the road safer overall, which will bring down the fatality rate and injury rate among drivers. Hopefully we can see this change made sometime soon in the future. Thank you.
Good job.
Good job, Garrett.
I also think we should raise them.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, I never really thought about it being just, that there's a guy next to you going 70, you're going 60, and then the guy behind you is also speeding up on you a little bit or something like that.
Yeah, it just makes sense to raise them.
I hadn't really thought about it until I researched for this. So.
Oh no! When I'm driving, I'm like, the speed limit needs to be faster.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So we can stop recording, right?
Yeah, I think we're
Don't
good.
stop that.